You can't work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for your entire life. Believe it or not, when you eat something, you should feel nothing. You should feel zero. You shouldn't even feel it in your stomach. Be curious, pay attention, but do not obsess. Notice and move on. Your mood is directly associated, tied to how productive you are. Bam! Cheesecake story. There it is. It's real. Pay attention, man. Think about that. It makes your stomach hurt. That's definitely your body talking to you. No redos. Get her done. Have fun. How y'all doing out there? Yes, we like to hear. I trust you're having a great time, having a great week, and you're ready to learn about eating. You know, who would have thought you could talk about eating? But we can. We can give you some tips here. So that is what we are going to do. We're going to, I don't know what to call this one. So we're going to call it for now, the real name to be determined, Feel Your Food. Feel your food, y'all. What we are going to talk about, this is actually an article that I wrote, I don't even know, 2019, 2020. I had a couple year stint in there where out of 3, 4, 5 times a week, I was going to the Starbucks and getting a coffee and writing for 2, 3, 4 hours to blog. I was, at the time, blogging was the way to get traffic to your website. And, I like talking, I like sharing, and actually learned to like to write and start to become enjoyable. And but anyways, this was an article that I had written back then. I think, pretty sure it went up too. I had a whole bunch that I started and didn't finish, but I like 8 or 9 of them actually made it up on the website. You can actually go find them at northindustry.com, CrossFitNorthindustry.com. They're kind of comical though. The original plan was I was just going to read the article as it were and kind of pull the good out of it because there's good in it, but it's kind of, I sucked. I was a terrible writer. I like to be funny, and I would try and get humor across, and I was reading this like, oh my God. What ended up happening was I started to edit it, and then I realized, I already changed this, so I won't be able to do that. So I pulled the gist out, got it organized, and got it into a podcast, and that's what we're going to do today. So the goal of this podcast, episode 16, goal of the podcast is to gain a deeper understanding of how what you eat is affecting you. Are we even going to do that? I don't know if we're going to even talk about that, but we're for sure going to talk about share the 3 things you need to assess in order to do that. And have a good time. As always, let's have a good time. All you party people out there. Outline of updates. Outline of topics. Updates. A cheesecake story. I'm going to tell the cheesecake story. I've told this story a bunch, and, back in the day when I tell this story, it was always people were just like, no, that's not true. You're an idiot. And people who are listening to this and have heard the story, but people don't say that anymore. It's so interesting to see how things change. One of the changes that I've seen that is so interesting is the leaky gut thing, because I got introduced to leaky gut and now it's called gut permeability. You got to give it a more technical name, which I respect that. But back in the day when on the fringe, doctors who you wouldn't call doctors because they said things like this, there was doctors that said things like this got put on a website. It was called quack.com or something like that. And they would just get slandered and discredited for saying things like this. And so it's fascinating to see how things come into reality, but it's always that way. New ideas are always poo-pooed. It's just human nature because, as if you listen to that episode where we talked about what new information is actually doing to people, it's a very normal response. And so not surprising, but the leaky gut thing, now they call it intestinal permeability, and it's legit. And of course, the gut isn't perfect, and of course it can get inflamed and maybe let things through that it shouldn't, because it is only one cell thick, for crying out loud. But anyways, so I'm going to tell the cheesecake story. A little bit of a rant there. Outline of topics continuing here. How to self-assess. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover assessing what you eat, how to do the specific assessment of what you're eating. There's 3 things that you're going to be looking for, and then have some final thoughts. That was a good little rant. All right, updates. Here we go. Lions had a bye, so nothing to really say there. weather's cold. It's going to get colder up here at the north. We're looking at, it was going to be -12 one morning. So that's exciting. Subscribers went from 61 to 60. But then the next day, it was back up to 61. Let's go. I have no idea how that happened, by the way, because we're not promoting anything on the website. We're not really pushing anybody. We're not pushing for subscriptions. We're solely focused on that YouTube, and YouTube is at 76. Growth almost every day on the YouTube. Exciting to see. And Spotify and Apple sitting at their standard 21. Reminder, please submit your questions to dennis@dennisfenrich.com. Actually, one came in yesterday or today, this morning, but I was already pretty much done with this outline, and I wasn't changing it. Okay, so we'll get to your question next week. Okay, what do I got first on here? We're getting into things. Let's get into this. The cheesecake story. What do I want to say first? I'm just going to tell the cheesecake story. All right, so here we go. So way back in the day, like, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, I was busting my guts. I was working, 14-hour days were the norm. And I would have many of the classes. I had a full client load. I had like 5, 6, 7 clients. I was covering many of the classes. I was in there 3-4 mornings a week there in the evening. And it was not an exciting time of my life. And this, interesting point here. There's this thing, we think about this in fitness. It's called work-rest ratio, right? So how many, I'm going to work for a minute and I'm going to rest for a minute. Or I'm going to work for 2 minutes and I'm going to rest for 3 minutes. So that work-rest ratio. Well, we all we have one of those naturally. You can't work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for your entire life. Most people can't. You're going to burn out. You're going to get irritable. You're going to start to hate life, right? So that's kind of like a work-rest ratio. And I think everybody, this is just a sidebar, by the way, everybody kind of needs to figure that out. How hard can you work? How much work can you get done? And then, and how much time do you need to recover to continue to repeat that in a healthy manner? Anyways, I was outside of my work-rest ratio. And I didn't like life very much. And, pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was just not in a good mood. And this was going on for months and months and months. And then one week, I woke up Monday morning and nothing had changed as far as I had known, but I was not cranky. I didn't really dislike my life. I was kind of like, I had a ton of work to do that week per usual, but I was kind of okay with it. Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm starting to think what is different, right? I'm in a good mood. What is going on right now? And I had realized that I had not got my quote unquote back then. I might have called it a cheat meal back then. I don't know if I did. I got away from the cheat meal concept a long time ago. I eat what I want to eat. And I didn't feel lousy. And I had realized that prior to that week, I had eaten the same cheat meal, quote unquote, for a year. And it was a Cheesecake Factory, Americana burger, and a big piece of cheesecake all to myself. And that was my Saturday night I've been good all week. I'm working hard. I've eaten clean. I'm going to go enjoy this meal. And I didn't have that. And I was in a good mood. And I was thinking to myself, what in the world are they putting in that food? That's where my mind went. Because I understand molecules and I understand. I have a basic understanding of molecules and a basic understanding of brain chemistry. And I also understand when you eat things, they have molecules and those molecules get into your bloodstream and those molecules go through your body and have effects on things. So I was like, and at the time though, I would tell this to people and they would be like, oh, it's dumb. It's cheesecake. It was kind of a joke, but people don't know what they don't know. And so I ran a little experiment. Next week I had the cheeseburger and the cheesecake, and sure as the sun rises in the morning, I was back in, it wasn't like just I'm tired, I'm kind of cranky. I was in a very negative mindset. And it would go until about Wednesday in the afternoon, and then it would start to dissipate. And by Wednesday evening and the rest of the week, I was fine. And so when I recognized, anyways, I guess to get to the gist of the story, is it wasn't the burger and the cheesecake, it was just a cheesecake. I literally cut the cheesecake out. I think a following week or the week after, I just had the burger and I was good to go Monday morning, and I didn't have that same mindset. And to tie it all together again, months later, you start going, maybe I imagined the whole thing, and I had the cheesecake again, and bam, same thing. And it was a stark negative, terrible mindset that I can't even remember being in ever since, to be honest, except maybe one time. But anyways, so that's the cheesecake story. And giving a talk at Lifetime. Oh, yeah. I was putting some things on here. I didn't know if I wanted to work them in or not. I don't really need to. I do want to say this, though. One of the retorts I would always get with the cheesecake story was the placebo effect. You think that's happening, so it's happening. One, this totally happened by accident, and I discovered it. It wasn't like I was like, I think I'm cranky because I'm eating this, and then I stopped eating it, and I wasn't cranky. I was angry, then I wasn't, and then I thought about why. So, no. But two, well, placebo isn't going to be all the time, and obviously molecules affect you. Like saying this now, like people are like, yeah, well, obviously, but back then it wasn't obvious, and I had to put up the placebo argument. See, I didn't even have this on here. Bam! Cheesecake story. There it is. It's real. Pay attention, man. If you're noticing big swings in your mood, definitely take a look at what you eat. Definitely take a look at what you eat. Now, if your sleep pattern sucks and you got a bunch of stress in your life, then, whatever. But if you're noticing like you're going from like, hey, things are great, life's good, and all of a sudden you're not there anymore, take a look at what you're eating. All right, so moving on. How to self-assess. First off, God, I feel like I always got to address this stuff. Self-assessment is subjective. And so it does get a little bit of, poo-pooed is my thing to say lately. It does get frowned upon or discredited in air quotes if you're listening and not watching, because it's subjective. And, and you're not getting hard data and, how you feel one day and how you feel another and, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Okay? So the definition of subjective is based on or influenced by personal feelings, tastes, or opinions. And they give a little sentence here. His views are highly subjective. And so it does get poo-pooed on. Now, here's the thing, though. Initially subjective, like, think, how do I feel right now? What is this, how does this, we're going to get into some of the details of this. How does this food feel in my stomach? It's all about feeling, I guess. What do I think about this? But the subjectivity of it is you can get good with subjective things with practice. And a great example of that is RPE, rate of perceived exertion. So when you're exercising, you're getting quote unquote intense, or you're getting your heart rate up and it's feeling more, the more intense you get, the more uncomfortable it is. Well, that's subjective, right? But when you do that over time and you're working out and you say, all right, how do I feel right now? And you're working out again, and how do I feel right now? And you've been doing that for a year. Well, guess what? Your subjectivity gets pretty accurate, especially if you're going to tie a number to it every time. Like, oh, this feels like a 7 out of 10, or this is a 5 out of 10, or this is an 8 or 9 out of 10. If you do that long enough, and subjectivity becomes a really good marker for what the heck's going on with you. And quite honestly, unless you're doing some sort of blood work or whatever, some external metric, how in the world are you going to assess how you're feeling anyways without asking? So, don't be afraid of subjective things. It just takes practice. So, when we're doing a self-assessment, there's 3 major things that you're going to think about. You're going to think about, how is my mood? How is my energy? And how does my body feel, right? Am I achy? Is my skin sensitive? Do my muscles feel fatigued? When I say energy, I'm like, do I feel like I have energy to go do things, or do I feel exhausted? Do I feel like unmotivated? And how is my mood, right? Am I cranky? Am I snapping on people? Am I negative towards the world, or I have a positive outlook on the world? How's my view? Or how's my mood? So those are 3 things I'm usually thinking about. And a self-assessment can be used in anything, right? I got a few examples here. So I'm at the park. What's it like here at the park? How do I feel? What's my mood? What's my energy? How do I feel? Before, after a workout, right? That's a great thing to do. I'm going to the gym. How did I feel before the workout? And then after the workout, now how do I feel? Most likely you're like, well, I feel tired. But what happens 30 minutes later? Man, I feel really good, right? Or maybe even not that long after. And then also your job, right? Where is it? Or, well, if you feel sad at your job. Anyways, if you feel sad at your job, go be more productive and you won't feel sad, right? Your mood is directly tied to how productive you are. Anyways, I do want to say this before we get into how to self-assess what you eat, how to assess what you eat. Self-assessments are great, and you should definitely be doing them. But what you don't want to do is obsess about it. You do not want to spend every second of your life thinking about how you feel, what's my mood, blah, blah, blah. That is not healthy, and it is directly correlated with anxiety levels, right? People who are high anxiety, they're thinking about themselves a lot, and what do people think, and how do I feel, and blah, blah, blah. And it's the I. It is not very healthy. It's a tool, but like anything, you got to find that balance with it. So I did want to say that and point that out. Do not self-obsess. Notice and move on. You just take a mental note, okay, boom, and then you move on. All right, fantastic. I need a little sound for when I switch topics here. That's probably not good. I don't know. I'll find one. Crickets would definitely not be good. All right. So, assessing what you eat. You're about to eat something. And, you want to start to pay attention to this because you could be eating things that are upsetting your stomach or doing stuff that you don't want it to be doing. And you're going to need to learn, this food is like this and this food is like that and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And so, there's three things that you want to assess, or three things, let's say there's three things that I'm looking for when I go to eat something, okay? And it's going to go, how does it feel in my stomach? How is it digesting? And how do I feel after? Okay, so three things I'm going to pay attention to. Yep, three things I'm going to pay attention to when I eat something. How does it feel in my stomach? How does it feel in my stomach? How is it digesting? And how do I feel? Okay, so number one, how does it feel in my stomach? Believe it or not, when you eat something, you should feel nothing. You should feel zero. You shouldn't even feel it in your stomach. I just ate a big salad with chicken on it, and I also ate 3 servings of rice. I had 3/4 of a cup, uncooked. Cooked, it's like 270 grams or whatever. Literally 30 minutes ago, and I don't feel a thing in my stomach right now. Food that is not affecting you negatively, you don't feel it. Now, if I continue to eat those things until it started to put tension on my stomach, I would feel that. But right now, those vegetables and that chicken, good to go. I can't feel a thing. So that's level 1, no feeling. That's ideal. Level 2 is I'm aware of something. I just ate it 20, 30 minutes, not this, but whatever. I just ate whatever 20, 30 minutes ago. And I feel it in there. It's there, it's not annoying, but I can feel it. That's kind of like a level up from no feeling. And there's 4 levels to this. Next level would be uncomfortable. I just ate something and you know what? God, I just don't feel comfortable anymore. I didn't need a ton of, I need so much that I was stretching my stomach. I just ate this thing. And chocolate does this like clockwork. I can eat chocolate and it's kind of in between. I feel it and it's uncomfortable. But I still enjoy some chocolate here and there because I like chocolate. But I'm not going to do that all the time, if that makes sense. But chocolate definitely does that to me. Back before I got my guts in good shape, I could not take a sip of coffee without it starting to make me rumble, without it feeling it in my stomach. Now I could drink coffee and I got no problem. So again, 4 levels: no feeling, aware of something, uncomfortable, and then lastly, painful. If it's painful, obviously, and you say obvious, you would go, I'm not eating that again. That literally made my stomach hurt. Why would I eat that? But I guarantee you, some of you listen to this still eat things that make your stomach hurt. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend you stop doing that. Because, yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. I got a little story about the whole stomach pain thing, too. Because back when I was in my 20s, when I worked at Lifetime, they had ready drink, I don't care, muscle milk in their fridge. And, I wasn't as organized back then, and I didn't always pack a lunch, and sometimes I had something. Actually, I remember eating at the cafe a lot. But I would grab these shakes 2, 3, 4 days a week, and literally they gave me pain in my stomach for 10 to 15 minutes after drinking it. And I still drank them. Like, what in the world was I doing? It wasn't until like years later when I was thinking about like, what in God's name was I doing that for? Because I was 26 and I just didn't think about this stuff, I just think about that. It makes your stomach hurt. That's definitely your body talking to you. So, anyways, that was a little sidebar story again. This is how I've gone through the years, just trial and error. Just figure this out as you go. Hopefully you don't have to do that. All right. So the fourth thing is, again, no feeling. I can feel it. It's uncomfortable. And then pain. So assessing what you eat. So that was one. Number two, how is it digesting? Rumbly, bubbly, gassy, belching, hiccups, indigestion, all that stuff is a indicator of one of two things or both. One, the food is your intestinal system and your body does not like that. It is not processing it well. Or two, your gut and your digestive system is a little bit compromised and it's not handling what you're eating very well. I mean, this is something that's been shown pretty clearly. If you are in a situation where you have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, everything's kind of inflamed. It's not working super well and you're getting stuff that's passing through. But if you get your guts to heal up, you get a really clean diet, you do the things that you need to do to get your intestinal tract healed up, then you can tolerate some of those foods that you couldn't tolerate before. It's been shown many times. So, how is it digesting? Rumbly, bubbly, gassy, belching, blah, blah, blah. How long is it in my stomach is something I pay attention to often. I usually don't eat things that make me gassy and make me rumbly and distend my stomach. I don't do that anymore. I haven't eaten ice cream. And this isn't like, hey, look how cool I am. I'm just telling you how important this is. But I haven't eaten ice cream in, 7 years, really. I think somewhere around there, maybe 6, 7, something like that. But because it is, I actually like it and it doesn't I feel it in my stomach, but it's not terrible. But the next day, it is so uncomfortable. I can't even, I don't want to get into the details. We're about to get into some of the details that make people uncomfortable in a second here, but incredibly gassy for 2, 3, 4 hours. And it's ridiculous. It makes me want to leave the room, for crying out loud. And then it follows me around. No. Yeah, magic. Magic fairy, follow me around. Farting. I said it. Dang it. I tried not to. All right. So we got 3 things we're looking for in digestion. Rumbly, bubbly, gassy. How long? Oh, I totally got sidetracked. How long is it in my stomach? This is something I pay attention to very much these days. Because when I was in my 20s, I could eat a giant meal and it'd be gone in an hour. It would be empty in an hour. But now that I'm almost 50, large meals can take 2 to 3 hours to digest, and I'm cognizant of that because I don't want food in my stomach that long. 2 hours is kind of the cap. I eat 3 hours out from any workout just because I want to make sure that everything I've eaten is digested and out of the system there. And that does slow down as you get older. And so just be aware of that. Pay attention to how long stuff's sitting in your stomach because you just don't want to have something lugging in there for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. I remember one time recently, not too long ago, it was during this thing. We went to this restaurant late, and I got the beef tips or whatever they were. It was absolutely delicious, but it was so fatty, and I ate it at 10 o'clock at night. And I remember it was like 4 in the morning, and this thing was still in my stomach, and I was like, what in the world did I do to myself? Anyways, last thing you want to look for when it comes to digesting, and I'm just going to say, we all got to be adults in the room. We all, go to the bathroom and do those kind of things. So this is something you should be paying attention to because what you don't want is you don't want your stool, okay, poo-pooed. Working it in. You don't want loose stool or regular bowel movements which smell foul, burn, or are water. I guess water in. Anyways. It's disgusting, I know. But you should pay attention to that. It's important. That's definitely an indicator of, something that you ate, that you didn't digest well, and something throughout that intestinal tract, large colon area there, is not doing great. Ever since I went a salad every day, all that stuff has been fantastic. It wasn't that way for many years. Many years. It took me a long time to figure that one out. So, but pay attention to that. It should be... And we're going to get off this topic in a second. I know it makes people uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable, actually. Should be well-formed. Should have, as I heard before, earthy tones. and regular. So you should basically go to the bathroom at the same time every day. 1 time a day, same time every day. If that's not happening, you should start working on that. Something I used to hear a lot, rumbly, bubbly, gassy. If that's normal to you, you're it's just, I don't know how to say that without being too dramatic about the whole thing. Any tissue that is inflamed, chronically inflamed, has problems, right? Because those cells are regenerating themselves in the environment that they're replicating themselves in, like a copier, a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, isn't really that good because there's just chronic inflammation there. And so those copies are going to probably be a little less accurate due to the little less accurate environment that they're in. So if you're constantly experiencing problems with your digestion, I would highly recommend getting that figured out if you want to avoid complications with your digestion down the road. I mean, it's not rocket science. Having a chronic problem is going to yield a bigger problem down the road, right? So don't accept that as normal. It's not. Somebody told me they had Tums every day for 15 years. I'm like, you should get that figured out. That's not normal, right? It might be common, but it's not normal. All right. And the last thing, number 3, you want to check for is, how do I feel after I eat something? How do I feel after I eat it? And there's 2 windows that I look at or try and pay attention. I don't have to pay as much attention anymore if I do it all. I still do. If my mood is off, I'll think that I eat something unusual. But generally speaking, I'm eating the same things, so pretty much I don't think about it too much. But there's 2 windows. And the one is 30 minutes to 2 hours after you eat. So if you eat something and, obviously you're looking for, what's step number 1? How does it feel? Is it making me rumbly, bubbly, whatever? And then did my mood change after I ate it? Did my energy levels drop? Did my energy levels go up? Did I feel better? Did I feel worse? Was I in a good mood? I was kind of excited to eat. I was having a good day and I ate, and now it's 2 hours later and I'm like kind of cranky. I don't feel like I used to. That's something you want to pay attention to. So you get the 30-minute to 2 hour window, and then you got the 24 to 48 hour window, which I know this creates kind of like it's a gap, but if you're paying attention, you'll start to figure out what's going on with your diet. But you want to look at that because some things are on a pretty heavy delay. Those molecules get in there and they might take their time to really have their negative. They might have their influence on whatever's going on. So generally speaking, though, most of what you're going to notice is going to be fairly immediate, but there can be delays on different things. Okay. So the things you want to check for outside of within those windows are, how's my energy, how's my mood, am I positive, negative? We kind of cover these things in any self-assessment. Achy, if I eat like pasta, which I never do, but if I get into some bread because, they put the bread on the table at the restaurant, it's like, yeah, I'm getting some of that. Especially if they got like some cinnamon butter or some sort of delicious butter there. But anyways, achy, swollen, inflamed, sensitive joints, muscle, skin, right? So if you're getting a heavy inflammation and achiness after eating, you definitely want to pay attention to that, because that can, if you're gonna get inflammation up in the skull there, that's going to affect your mood and brain and all that other stuff, but your joints and all that. If you're in your 20s, you don't even notice any of this stuff, so don't worry about it. And lastly, brain fog, which was another one of those things that got poo-pooed when people would say it 20 years ago. Did I ever say when I heard about the leaky gut? I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but that was in 2007. Like, I was learning about leaky gut, and they had the quackery thing going on with the website, and now we're in 2025. What is the math on that? I'm good at math. Is that 18 years? 3? Yeah, that's 18 years later. And this falls right into the research to practice gap. I'm pretty sure I covered this on another podcast, but you know what? It's been a fun podcast. Let's keep rolling. The research to practice gap is when we discover something new, but it's not common knowledge for, on average, 17 years. So what that means is that new information that could be benefiting your life, you won't hear about it for another 17 years, 20 years, maybe 15. So if it's 20 years and you're going to live to 80, that's 25% of your life. You missed out on that information. You didn't get to take advantage of that. That's why you got to listen to podcasts. So anyways, that was literally a 17-year to the, 18 years to the T, man, right? And that research practice gap, that was shown. That was an average. They looked at all that and they saw what the average time delay was, and it was 17 years. So anyways, brain fog. this used to get poo-pooed, but it's totally legit. And I don't think anybody, again, same kind of thing. Like nobody's even going to go, yeah, obviously that happens. But foods that you eat and things that you do can affect the function of your brain. Whoa, go figure. Did you ever notice how some days you're like, brain's working really good? Hey, here's the thing. Drinking caffeine affects how your brain works. Whoa, what do you know? It's a molecule. Sorry, I'm a bit of soapbox today. So I just wanted to say brain fog is a term used to describe a range of cognitive symptoms that can impact daily life. This is the Google AI. Difficulty concentrating, paying attention or focusing, forgetfulness, especially short-term memory, difficulty finding or generating words or numbers in your head. That's one of the things I'll notice the most. Like I can't math in my head like I like to. It's just not working that day. Feeling overwhelmed by simple tasks, difficulty with effective functions like difficulty with executive functions like planning, organizing, and multitasking. So brain fog is real. So if you're at work and you're getting it done all day and your brain, excuse me, there it is, hiccups, you see that? I was at work all day and brain was working great. And I got home and I ate and all of a sudden, now it could be because you're at home and you're getting on the down slope and you're starting to decelerate. Could totally be it. I'm not saying that there's not other things, but paying attention to this, give it a good year or two, pay attention to it. And you're going to really tuned in to what you eat. All right. I think it's an invaluable tool. I think everybody should learn how to do this. Okay, and so that's pretty much it for today. Let's get into these final thoughts. We're cheering. All right, what do I got on here? Oh my God, I got to tell another story? I got another story on here. I hope you guys are liking these stories, and I really hope everything's recording. Oh my God, I don't know if I hit the record button. I did. Oh, I've not been talking that long. Fantastic. Got time for one more story. This is the cottage cheese story, another cheese thing here. What do you know? There's a theme. Long time ago, in my early 20s, I think I was 26. I was working at the casinos at the time. I was trying to get my protein up. I wanted to get, I used to eat a lot of protein. I eat like 200, 240 grams a day back in my 20s. And so I was looking for another protein source, and I discovered cottage cheese at the time. This has been a whole learning process for me as well. Didn't have the internet back then. We had I had a magazine that I got that was called Muscle Media 2000. I might have mentioned that before. That's way back in the day. Remember that? Anyways, too many stories. The cottage cheese story. So I decided I'm going to eat a cup of cottage cheese. And the other thing that was going on at the time was this slow absorbing proteins were really supposed to help build your muscle. Bunch of nonsense, by the way. Because total is the biggest thing that comes out. It turns out that as long as you're getting enough, it looks like you're pretty good to go. You might get a 10% bump if you spread it out perfectly throughout the day. But like, if you get enough protein in, it's weird, but it's like your physiology knows what it's doing. It's crazy. Cottage cheese, cup before bed. And I noticed that I didn't sleep as well. Like I was kind of like light sleep, tossing and turning, kind of not really getting to sleep, And this went on for like 3 nights in a row. And I'm like, what is different here? I'm like, man, maybe it's that cottage cheese. And so I look into it, and it turns out that cottage cheese is very high in an amino acid called tyrosine. And tyrosine is a precursor to, and I just wanted to write them down so I didn't forget them, norepinephrine, dopamine, and epinephrine. And those are basically the adrenal hormones. And so I was basically supplying the amino acids needed to make those neurotransmitters, which are stimulating neurotransmitters. And so I wasn't sleeping as well. I mean, it was really shallow enough. And it was that kind of sleep it's annoying, right? And sure enough, cut out the cottage cheese and it's gone. Now, plenty of people go, placebo. I go, no, not placebo, because I wasn't trying to do that. It's science is what it is. Science. Anyways. Okay, so let's recap and wrap this up. So, order of priority. How does it feel in my stomach? How is it digesting? How do I feel now? And how is it in the bathroom? All right. You're looking for change. Oh, yeah. What says? You're looking for change. You're trying to perceive it, not imagine it, right? Don't start Again, don't start obsessing and don't start imagining all these things are happening, all right? You still need to be present in the world. Don't spend all your time in your head. Just take a note and carry on, all right? Be curious, pay attention, but do not obsess. Notice and move on, all right? That's it for today, guys. Appreciate you listening. It's great to see that YouTube channel growing. And, I keep getting good feedback and people coming up and tell me, hey, man, I really like it. Because I don't know. I'm not, I don't know. Just putting them out there. So I'm glad you guys are liking it. I'm starting to have way more fun and not be so concerned about, getting everything perfect and enjoy myself. So this is all good. It's good for you. It's good for me. Next episode, to be determined. But I think I came across what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to keep finding these old articles and just covering what's in there, man. Because it's a lot easier on me. The whole body thing and here's how your body works, man, I was really pulling ideas together that I hadn't quite articulated, and so that was taking a ton of time, which I'm super glad that I did, but I'm also glad that it's done. So pulling these articles out, this was a lot of fun for me, and I get to laugh at myself because I was a terrible writer. I'm not much better now, but better than I was. But anyway, so probably be another article. Definitely going to have somebody on. Going to do an interview here the next 2, 3, or 4 podcasts. That'll be a ton of fun. But next one will be on another article. Just don't know which one yet. Like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube. And as always, please submit your questions to dennis@dennisfenrich.com. All right, guys. Have a great week. And we'll talk soon. All right, bye.